Wow, that's like dance music. Well, that's dance and high energy because my next guest and I are really good friends. I love her madly. And I just read her response to, let's just go right to Cindy Sheehan. She's candidate for Vice President of the United States, running with Roseanne Barr on the Peace and Freedom ticket. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Karel, it's always great to be on with you, brother. On you.
I know what you mean, girl. Trust me.
Never been on you.
There's something for the press, right? Because you're involved in something right now that I can totally relate to. Andrew used to tell me, he used to say, you can get 10,000 positive emails and you never respond. But if you get one negative one, it sends you into a tailspin and you have to respond. And you sent out an email blast, and you were having some fun, actually, with as much fun as you can about a serious topic. Right. And I guess somebody took issue. One person took issue, and then you went ahead and responded to that one person, even though I'm sure like thousands of people thought it was great. The one person that thought it was bad, and I'm just the same way.
It was relevant to say, though, because everybody thinks that Roseanne Barr is not serious about running for president. And
right.
She's very serious, and she's not a clown. She's a comedian. I think you know the difference between being a clown and a comedian. A comedian can, dig down in these serious issues and make them relevant and funny to people so they understand them better.
Right.
And it's just something that needed to be said.
Well, and comedy usually comes from pain. Roseanne, I fully believe that all comics come from a very dark place, really. They've suffered a lot of pain, and they feel things very deeply, which is why they turn it around and make humor out of it. Now, you are serious candidates, and you do want to add something serious to the debate. The Peace and Freedom Party is going to be on the ballot in many states. And, people always say, well, how come the teabaggers are getting so many people elected? How come? And one of the reasons is because they have support. And if the progressives who really do have issue with President Obama were to support other candidates, then you would be in the debates. You would have a more of a national voice. It just takes people that agree. Now, I know that you are about peace. Right. You have been about peace since your son died. Since Casey died, you wanted answers from George Bush, and then you went on to become a champion of reminding us. And some people don't like the fact that you're in their face reminding them of how many people have died in Iraq, how many people are dead in Afghanistan, how we voted to actually leave these countries, and yet we're still fighting wars. They don't want to be reminded, and you don't let them forget. And I think that's one thing that people do get bothered about with you, is that you don't let them forget what we were about back in 2008.
Well, I won't ever let them forget either. And that one thing about how the Tea Party can grow and how the left, the progressive left or socialist left or whatever kind of left you want to say in the country cannot grow is because we don't speak the language of the masses.
Right.
And it's not to be shamed. It's not something to be ashamed of that you can relate to the masses. If we just want to relate to each other, like I said in my piece, with some intellectual blah, 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 then our movements won't grow.
Right. And let's talk about what you and Roseanne would like to add to the dialogue. What is the purpose of the campaign? I know that you would eventually, look, you'd love to win, and stranger things have happened. But given it that you may not win, what at least do you want to add to the dialogue of the campaigns?
Well, there's one very specific thing that we'd like for to happen in California. Of course, we need to register 48,000 more people to the Peace and Freedom Party. And if we get 50,000 people, to register Peace and Freedom, that sends a message to the Democrats that they're not doing their job. And another thing is, my major issue is peace. Of course, Roseanne is a big anti-war, anti-empire, pro-peace person herself. But her big issue is medicinal cannabis. And we, in California, we voted that medicinal cannabis would be legal. And the federal government, under Obama, is constantly raiding our dispensaries, constantly raiding our growers, harassing the industry, harassing the people who actually have prescriptions and cannabis cards. And so Roseanne and I want to appeal to everybody with that issue in California, too. If we can get a lot of Californians to support us and that issue, that can send a message to the federal government that we mean business in California. When we say that we want medicinal cannabis to be legal, we mean it, and we want the federal government to stay out of our state.
Yeah, that's been a big issue with me and President Obama. I, of course, have a prescription. I use cannabis for both my blood pressure and for vomiting. And I, you pretty much grow it now because it's too expensive to buy. But that being said, it's getting harder and harder to find. My city, Long Beach, just moved to ban the dispensaries. So now, and even the ones that paid them some extortive fee to try to stay into business. And so who knows what's going to happen when that happens, when they pass that and they close, where the people are going to have to go. In Oaksterdam University was raided, as you know, and the irony there is while the federal agents were raiding Oaksterdam, I'm sure you know that right across town someone was going on a mass shooting spree at a college.
Right.
And yet just 2 miles away we had all these armed people at a pot university. So it is really a very sad thing that's happening because the people have voted and they have said, yes, we want it. And then the feds keep stepping in. What about, you're the vice presidential candidate for Roseanne Barr. Mitt Romney just picked Paul Ryan. What about his pick for vice president?
Well, I heard that Joe Biden called Paul Ryan to congratulate him, but I didn't get a call.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling a little
left out.
Joe Biden didn't call me to congratulate me when I got the nomination. But, I think that the Democrat and Republican political circus is a circus. You know that they're only going to talk about wedge issues. They're not going to talk about substantive issues because substantially they agree on almost every issue that's important to us. So it's going to be wedge issues, and we care about wedge issues. Roseanne and I, of course, we support same-gender marriage. We support abortion on demand for women. We support all of these good things that most people on the left do support also. But we're going to talk about substantial issues, too, like ending the empire abroad, ending the wars, closing our bases, bringing the troops home and bringing our money home to have single-payer health care, to have free education from preschool to university, to redistribute the wealth so there'll be a more equitable income distribution by higher taxes on the higher income earners and eliminating taxes for the low-income earners. So these are really issues that I think Roseanne and I can reach out to people. I don't think you have to be on the left or the right to understand that we're getting screwed here in the 99%, and we need a solution. We don't need, these corporate politicians supporting the 1%. And just giving lip service to the 99%. And that's what happens every 4 years.
How tired do you get, Cindy? Because I get exhausted just doing talk radio. You've run against Nancy Pelosi. You've been arrested more times than I can't even think of a person that's been arrested more times than you. You've been arrested a lot. You have been out there trying to make a change since the Bush era, which, 4 years of that, now 4 years of President Obama. So you've been on the national stage for almost a decade. It's got to wear you out.
No, I don't get tired. I have superhuman energy. I really do. I feel very passionate about the cause, and that keeps me going. And, I've learned to take care of myself, too. I did almost kill myself for the cause in 2007.
Yeah.
And after that, I know that if I don't take care of myself, nobody else will.
Well, tomorrow as I'm lying there having a stress echocardiogram, I can totally relate. I've been putting a little too much into and the work,
Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, brother of another mother.
Thank you. Well, when we come back, Cindy Sheehan, candidate for Vice President of the United States. 8080810 is the number. Like I'm the only girl in the world. It is the Karel Show. I am Karel. Cindy Sheehan is my guest, and one thing that I will not abide, and I can't abide, is a dismissal of her campaign with Roseanne Barr as a publicity stunt, as whatever. First of all, I know how dead serious Cindy Sheehan is. She has put her life, her fortune, her health, and her reputation on the line more times than any of you publicly. I'm not saying that to degrade any of you. I'm simply saying instead of bitching and moaning about change, she has gone out and tried to affect it. And whether you agree or disagree with her methods, at least she's doing something. And isn't that what America is about? Being involved in the process, not sitting back and saying, I'll never be able to change this. Instead, you get involved and you try to change it from the inside. She is running with a credible party the Peace and Freedom Party, for the highest office in the land and the second highest office in the land. Now, whether you question the motives or not, when's the last time you put yourself forward in a campaign such as this and gone out on a national level and said, no, we want to add something to the dialogue? So at least instead of adding noise to the dialogue, they're trying to add some real solutions. Now, Roseanne's issue, of course, is medicinal marijuana, amongst other things. Cindy's issue here is peace, because she has been a peace activist from the get-go, but also universal health care, because for a long time I didn't have it. I know she still doesn't. And, other issues, education, infrastructure, all of these. And Cindy, I think you would agree, in all the noise from Romney and even Obama, none of the issues are really being discussed. They're screaming about the economy, but they're not screaming about solutions. They're screaming about all these other things, but they're not really telling us how they're going to solve the problem.
Well, and the basic problem is we spend trillions of dollars on empire in this country. So I remember yesterday somebody said, he was in Virginia Beach. One of my friends asked Ann Romney about single-payer health care, and her response was, we can't afford it. Well, of course we can afford it. Of course the richest country in the world can afford single-payer health care. If places like Cuba and Venezuela and other poor countries can afford universal health care, we can afford universal health care. But what we're spending our money on is death and destruction and oppression. So it's about reprioritization of the wealth of this country. And the wealth of this country belongs to 100% of the people in this country, not just 1% of the people in this country. So the reason they don't talk about these issues is because the 1% wants 100% of
Right.
the wealth of this country.
Right.
And the United States has the widest income disparity of any so-called industrialized nation. We have the widest income disparity. If a place like Venezuela can close their income disparity gap by 50% in 10 years, we could do the same thing here in the United States. It's just to prioritize our resources and our wealth in different places to help 100% of the people, not just 1%.
Now, in the chat room, they, of course, have questions. I've given them the number, 415-8080810, 415 or 510-8080810. You can get your question in, if you'd like, to Cindy Sheehan, 415 or 510-8080810. The text messages are coming in at 415-390-5288, 415-390-5288 is the text. And, of course, if you want to participate in the chat room or watch the show live, all you have to do is go to The Karel Show, TheKarel show.com. That's The Karel Show, and the show is being streamed live there as well. Now, Cindy, if you could debate Paul Ryan and Joe Biden, if you could get into that debate, what would you ask or say to these two people?
Well, of course, it's just what we have been saying here, is that the government should be buying for the people, not buying for the corporations. And the Democrats and Republicans have proved that they're the corporate war party. And, to talk about these issues, I'm not a Ron Paul fan or a Ron Paul supporter, but it's kind of like him being in the debates for the Republicans, how, he would try to get his issues of being anti-empire, anti-Fed, or whatever else that he was into the debate, and basically he was laughed at.
Right.
So,
now, in 1980, we boycotted the Olympics because Russia had invaded Afghanistan. In 2012, we're the star of the Olympics as we sit in the middle of Afghanistan.
Exactly.
The height of our hypocrisy there is mind-boggling, is it not?
Well, of course, there's imperial hubris all the time. It's especially like someone like Hillary Clinton that goes around the world saying that the leaders of countries should respect the rights of the people in the country, while the Occupy movement is being brutally oppressed here in the United States, or other oppressions from the police state. So yeah, it's vast hypocrisy, and of course I think that is the number one issue. If we don't end these wars, if we don't end the empire, they will end us. That's what happened to the Soviet Union. Why isn't it called the Soviet Union anymore? Because it collapsed after it was in Afghanistan for a dozen years.
Right. Because it couldn't sustain it. It didn't have the money. You cannot. I mean, we are trying to sustain perpetual war, but you can't. I mean, it ends up being too costly.
It is unsustainable, and it will eventually collapse. All empires have collapsed.
Right. I mean, people always say, they talk about Rome. I said Rome fell. I mean, our Washington, D.C. is designed around Rome. It was built.
Right.
There's even a statue that we don't let be seen of George Washington as, I think it's Zeus. He's sitting on a chair looking like a god. We have it down in the Smithsonian basement. But they had these images of our founders looking very Roman, and because we patterned ourselves after Rome. Rome fell. Now, if you could pick one issue outside of the war, if you could pick one issue, what other issue do you think we need to look at that we're not?
Oh, gosh, that's a good
Let's look at the economy. Everyone's screaming about the economy. Can government really do anything to create jobs short of hiring people themselves? I mean, if President Obama's short of hiring people to, work on the lawn on the West Wing or something, there's not much that he can do to create jobs. It's Congress that has to act.
Well, we have the Peace and Freedom Party has a very interesting plank in our platform that says full employment can be created if we go down to a 30-hour work week for 40-hour pay and eliminate overtime. So people are working 30 hours a week, getting 40-hour pay, and that creates almost full employment. So that's an interesting thing we should look at.
I love that. A 4-day work week is healthier for America as well. Every country that has a 4-day work week, their workers are healthier because you cannot decompress in just 2 days. You can't. You got to have some time at night, in the mornings, and at least 2 or 3 days off, to decompress. And I agree. A 30-hour work week with 40-hour pay and then rotate other employees in. In other words, someone work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Someone else work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You have this rotation, and you have more people working, and you have people happier. Why do you suppose, Cindy, we only have a few seconds here, but in America, I don't understand why we don't want happiness. We let corporations use us up our entire lives, pay us a small amount, and then when we retire, we take a pittance from the government. They blame us for not saving when we're not paid enough money by corporate America to save. We are set up to fail. We're set up to be fat because there's no money in us being thin. There's only money in us wanting to be thin. We're set up to fail in retirement because corporate America refuses to pay us what we're worth. We refuse to demand happiness.
I don't know. I think it goes way back to the founding of this country, and the work ethic and everything that terrible propaganda. These people who are wealthy deserve it somehow,
right.
and we don't deserve happiness. But guess what? We do. How come we just have to struggle to survive? We should be able to thrive. We should have, good job for good pay. We should have 6 weeks of vacation like they do in other places of the world.
Well, Congress is gone, and we're paying for Congress to take a 4-week vacation.
Retire at 60 if we want to, or work till you're 100 if you want to. We should take care more of each other than what we do is we feed the 1%.
Right.
It's our compliance with the 1%.
Yep. I always say they're rich off of our money. They're getting it. It was like the Chick-fil-A thing, the Chick-fil-A whole thing. I said, look, if you don't want the guy to have a voice, take away his money. Just don't go eat at his rotten chicken place anyway. Exactly. Instead of going down there and causing a ruckus, just don't eat his chicken. Yeah. I mean, he'll lose money. He'll go away. Don't feed him, Cindy, thank you for joining us. Good luck in your campaign. I think you and Roseanne will add a great bit to the national debate. And really, you might force them to focus on some of the actual issues by bringing them up in the media. You and Roseanne have an open invitation anytime through the campaign to come back. I love speaking to you, and just the best of luck. And thanks again for not just bitching and moaning, but putting yourself on the line and getting out there and trying to do something.
Putting myself on the line and bitching and moaning.
Thank you very much. That's right, because they are not mutually exclusive. Thank you. That is Cindy Sheehan. She is candidate for vice president on the Peace and Freedom Party ticket with Roseanne Barr. They are serious about the campaign. This is not just some prank that they're trying to do. You know, people tend to forget that when you're an entertainer, you're also a citizen. Streisand gets beaten up about this. A lot of people do. Roseanne Barr may be a comic, but she is also a citizen of the United States of America. And if she wants to run for president, she has every bit of much credential, if not more. Because remember, she was poor. You know? Cindy Sheehan is not some entitled millionairess that feels she should be vice president. She's a woman that's out there trying to survive in today's world.